Hello and welcome back to part 4 of my informative playthrough of Pathfinder Kingmaker. Now, in the previous video, we did quite a lot of dialogue reading up at Oleg's, and then we've travelled directly down here to Nettle's Crossing, and this was to preemptively head off a curse that Davik Nettle, the zombie who stumbled out the river, who was killed by the Stag Lord when he set up his bridge across the Shrike River here. So now, as I mentioned in the previous video, we've got two choices. Do we go to the Ancient Tomb first, or do we go to Thorn Ford first? And both of these have minor differences. Thorn Ford, this will have minor differences at the end of this chapter. Ancient Tomb will give us another companion immediately. We are going to go to Thorn Ford first. Now, there's a risk as we travel around that we are ambushed, so let's see what happens. Now, Waterlog Camp here, this is a storybook event, so you get Lindsay's book opened up and you pick choices like choose your own adventure. And the reason we're not going to do that now is that there's some relatively difficult skill checks to pass for the best outcome, and also the final best outcome is either like chaotic evil or you get cursed, and breaking a curse on ourselves is really hard to do at this stage in the game. So we are not going to mess with this until we've gained a bit more experience, so we're more likely to pass some checks, and it'll be less of an issue if anything bad happens. But if you're happy to reload, this is quite a good place to go because there's no fighting, so you effectively you can guarantee yourself some experience. So here we go. Now this is unlike the scripted random encounters, or scripted encounters which pop up and you don't get a choice. Here we get the choice to try and avoid. And if we successfully evade the enemies here, we get the choice to either leave them or actually to fight from a position of advantage. And we're actually going to do this. I don't normally do these random encounters if we miss, but I thought as a first one, let's see what we've got. And hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much in this fight. Random encounters just can be deadly. But first of all, we want to check who has got the greatest stealth. So Lindsay's at 13. So I suspect, and our cat is at 9. So
adventures call to them.
We're just going to have Lindsay check this out. So you can see that Kobold Sentinels she's spotted there. And these are level 2. They're not so tough.
I wrote it like I saw it.
We're going to need to rest before our next big combat event anyway, because of fatigue will cut in. So there's not much of an issue here. So let's make sure our formation is set up right, and it is not. Going to take Cat, Amiri, everyone down here, and we're just going to pre-prepare a ranged formation. See what we can get that to go. There'll be a few more kobolds somewhere, and we might as well.
Adventures are exciting.
My skills are absolute.
Friendship lasts forever. And Lindsay was called forth.
So let's go into stealth.
Shadows. Here I am. I am your shield.
Let's see what we can take down
I'm listening.
straight away.
Here.
Hopefully this will cause this one to explode.
I don't tolerate.
We've also got an alchemist who we really need to deal with.
Serves
There,
you right.
alchemist. So if we look here, they are using a mutagen. I believe that's either going to be a constitution or a strength mutagen, and after that they'll start throwing bombs. So we're going to try and daze them before that
You
happens.
deserved it.
Or kill them.
Let us strike as one.
Yeah, so they're triple dazed. There we go. So it's quite nice to fight alchemists because... Or, it's quite nice to fight alchemists, not alchemist apprentices, because they'll often have potions. Anyway, that was very simple. The charge is... I tend to
I'll share my power.
stop using charge at a certain point in the game unless it's with pounce with a... So tend to stop using charge as a sort of alpha strike method and start using it as a way to bring in back row and flanking combatants because you take that penalty to armor class. You hit once because
Can wait.
you don't have pounce, and if you don't kill them, they're hitting you, and you've got an AC
Don't you
penalty.
think?
You'll notice we're almost entirely fatigued now, so we're going to have to rest. Anyway, but Thorn Ford, this is where the nymph told us to come to find out where this hut was that the Stag Lord cared about so much. And this is if we were planning on doing the combat here, we'd have wanted to
I
rest.
decree we set up camp.
But
How cute!
we're planning on getting the non-combat resolution here. So this was another ancient Ruslandic coin. So again, that's more money in the bank.
Time to shine.
What I don't like, you can see here, this is about the only early game area that does this. These trees are so big, and because you can't rotate the camera, unlike in Wrath of the Righteous, you can really become sort
I'll
of
share my path.
feel like you don't have a good view. Edible moss is a cooking ingredient, and we want lots of cooking ingredients for later. There's a little bag here just with some cooking ingredients and some potion of vanish. Yeah, like this. You just can't see anything. And trying to fight when you've got big trees like that in the way is a pain. So, here we meet Akiros Insmort. Akiros is the Stag Lord's right hand. So he's a really important character in Chapter 1. And we get the choice later on to try and reason with him. And that's why we want to come here and chat to him early. Because we can avoid fighting him. Basically, comes over to our side. It's great. And he's talking to Kressle, who we'll remember from Olag. She drank that invisibility potion and disappeared. She is related somehow to Svetlana, and she stole Svetlana's wedding ring. And Kressle is proposing some sort of radical, like, let's fight Restov sort of thing. And Akiros Insmort is the voice of reason. And basically saying that she wants more from the Stag Lord's band than just sort of, banditry. She kind of wants almost like legitimacy, big plans. But she notices you, so Akiros is chilled out. And we're just going to ask, what do you want to talk about? And he makes the case here for the Stag Lord's legitimacy, basically saying, no different from any other ruler. Like, did not many barons start out as bandits? Isn't that? Is the baron not just the bandit with the biggest army, etc., etc. So he tries to make the case for legitimacy, and he says that he's of a more lawful persuasion. And so he says, please, leave the Stag Lord be and leave in peace. And we get a requires good choice. This is only available if you have a good alignment. That's, neutral good, chaotic good, or lawful good. And we get the option to make the counter case that the Stag Lord is actually, a bandit. He's not a very nice person. Leave him, help me find his fortress, and we can part in peace. We're going to choose this one. Yes, and off he goes. But we've planted the seeds there, which is all we really wanted to do, and we don't need to fight him. There's no way we could fight him at this stage without some super cheesy tactics. Not that that's an option, but yeah, he's far too strong. Now we turn to Kressle here, and we get lots of choices. We've got two good choices, neutral and chaotic good, and yeah, we're going to pick the neutral good one here. But basically, all these different ways of saying we don't want to fight, and she's kind of curious, and she mentions Svetlana here. She's like, fine, I won't cut your throat for now at least. And this, if we did this combat encounter, it's really tough. There's bandits, archers up here, there's all sorts of stuff there without some sort of crowd control. So if I'd been planning on doing this fight, I probably would have taken Grease on Lindsay first. Or maybe even sleep on the main character, because even though it's outclassed very quickly, that can trivialize these early encounters. So we're going to pick this neutral good option. Simply want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. And there's a tonal change in the writing. So suddenly, why should I trust you? Followed immediately by, alright, like, I will. You can see how the dialogue tree is struggling to line up it with congruence there. So, some important information that the Stag Lord's been spending more time drinking than paying attention to what's going on around him. And he won't answer this insult from Restov, i.e., having us sent here. And so, do whatever you're going to do. I won't stop you and I won't help you either. However, again, we've planted the seeds that Kressle, may well end up helping us. Not to spoil anything, but yeah. And she gives us the ring, Svetlana's wedding ring. And off they all go. And I'm happy with that. This, as I said, this fight is really tough for the early game, and instead we can skip it. And we've also got Jod Kevin. He's a cleric of Erastil, who they were keeping as prisoner and didn't see fit to mention. But yeah, so Erastil, god of the hunt, stag god. And Jod has come from Gult, and he's been sort of sent some visions. If we ask him how he came here, he says he's been sent these visions that there was this temple of the elk, desecrated shrine, and he was here to try and fix it, as clerics are wont to do. And he refers to the shadows of a predator lurking in Sorcerer's Fog. So again, this link to the fog. And we're going to ask him where the temple is. And unfortunately he doesn't know. Because this temple is one of the key locations we have to visit. But anyway, we're going to let him go. We're not going to take this lawful evil choice. She refers to us as an honest woman. That's nice of him. And yeah, he is going to head to Oleg's. And he is our cleric vendor. And he's a future advisor. In the sort of high priest role of our barony. Yeah, so there he goes off to Oleg's, and he wants to know if we find the Temple of the Elk, and he'll reward us with some lovely experience if we do. I'm going to end that dialogue. So we still haven't found where are we? We still haven't found where the Temple of Elk is, but we are going to find this hut, which the Guardian of the Bloom mentioned, and it's right here. Yeah, this woods upstream of Thorn River, and the Stag Lord wants it burnt. Burn. And we also see mention of Dovan from Nisrock. He grew upset when he learned nobody lived in the hut, said burning houses with no one in them was boring. Now, that guy sounds like a real nasty piece of work, which we'll bear in mind when we resolve a particular event in the future. So we're going to take that. That will add this abandoned hut location. We've also got a book here. This is a nice story about Ilthuliak, the dragon. We'll take that because we're going to sell it. And this, our first recipe. Recipes, you don't need to pay attention to them at all, but we can copy it here. They provide cooking bonuses, and cooking bonuses stack with other bonuses.
Applause, please.
And the most important ones are
Dangers don't frighten me.
the ones that either increase saves. In my opinion, the most important ones are the ones that increase saves, and the ones which increase spell DC. Spell DC, as I talked about a lot in my second introductory video, is really important. Now here, we've got this tarp over some boxes. This gives us an opportunity to poison the Stag Lord's wine, so he's weaker in the final fight. However, it relies on a relatively difficult perception check and a relatively difficult law nature check. So we're actually going to leave this. I'm going to try and remember to come back to it when we've gained a couple of levels and we're a bit more able to deal with it. These are traps here. They just appear as red circles if you pass your perception check. And they require a trickery check. Here we go. So, they've got a DC of 17, and Lindsay's got a modifier of 11. So failing these checks is perfectly possible for her. This is why we took skill-focused trickery, and it's why she's wearing that nice little hat.
It's just not my lucky day.
Wow. She got a 1. And if you fail by too much, you'll set the trap off. And these ones, I believe they summon, like,
share my path.
summoned wolves or summoned dogs or something. Just have a little look here. Sturdy cut with weapon marks on it. And there's a
requires your attention.
perception check here to get 2 quite good things. A masterwork heavy flail. Obviously it's worth 100, and it's a masterwork two-handed weapon. And this, which is a ring of deflection, plus 1. And if we see here, we're going to give that straight to Valerie. It's going to boost her armor class to 24. Now, I think I've mentioned or alluded to in one of my first videos that different bonuses add to things, and they stack. Different bonuses stack, or a bonus will stack with a different bonus. So an armor bonus stacks with a deflection bonus. But if you have, say, 2 sources of deflection, so a ring of protection plus 1, and you cast Shield of Faith, then only the largest deflection bonus will apply. So Shield of Faith at our level would be plus 2. So we'd have a plus 2 deflection bonus, not a stacking plus 3. So this is worth bearing in mind, and you'll only know about this in Kingmaker. You'll only realize this is happening if you check out in like this sort of sheet here. In Wrath of the Righteous, there's a function that will show. You'll get a little warning symbol saying that you've got non-stacking bonuses applying. Just to pick up these herbs here. And we're going to get what's probably the most important item on this map. It doesn't look like much, does it? There. So this scorched fragment of a necklace. This is one of the collectibles in the game, and each act has, various collectibles which fall into 2 categories, like artifact collectibles and story collectibles. Artifact collectibles like this can be assembled with the storyteller, who will also buy our Restovian coins, and you get like artifact tier items. This is the necklace of double crosses, which is a really powerful necklace. It's also quite dangerous. But there are 7 of these which we're going to collect and cash in for an incredible item. Story items, if you assemble them and give them to the same NPC, the storyteller, he tells you a lovely story and gives you a load of experience. So that should be this map basically cleared. I don't think there's anything up here. But anyway, we're going to have to come back for this item anyway. So the final thing I'm going to do in this video, because I think I'm going to keep this one quite short in case something catastrophic happens in the travel over to here, because this is, you know, notorious for proccing a particular ambush, which may be very difficult. But I will give it a go if it happens. So this here, camp. This is the resting menu. And first things first, it doesn't look that complicated, but there's a few things we need to pay attention to. The most important thing here is this manage. So first of all, we're going to use rations. I brought 10 rations specifically for this. If we didn't use rations, we would have to hunt. Okay? We can also hunt as well, and that will replenish our rations. And if we mouse over our different characters, it'll give a bonus here, which says what their bonus to the DC for these checks is. So Melly here, our NPC, has got the highest law nature, so we're going to pop her in hunting. Now, camp camouflage is also crucially important. This helps prevent random night encounters, which we really want to avoid. And so we're going to be placing Lindsay there. She's got an enormous +9 bonus for early game. And this is stealth. It's a stealth check, so reason enough to level someone up who's always going to be in your party with stealth is that particular stealth check. And to this, we are going to add... Lindsay's also really good at cooking, so yeah, but we'll get other characters who are as well. To this, we're going to put Amiri here in sharpened weapons. This will mean she... this is her special role, so she'll do +1 damage in the next battle if it's within 12 hours. We can also put Valerie here, +1 AC bonus in the next 12 hours. So, you know, do you want to do a little bit more damage or a little bit higher AC? I suspect that with what's coming up, the AC one might be... Well, it's impossible to say, because it is impossible to know what the enemy dice rolls are going to be. And these secondary slots, this will provide a flat +2 to the main hunter, the main camouflager, regardless of how crappy you are at the skill itself. So this should mean we find some rations, we're not going to be ambushed, and Amiri will do a little bit more damage. So off we go. Begin resting.
You chose a path of a warrior, and now your sword is always wet with blood. What, do you like killing?
War is no less honorable a trade than any others. It's definitely not worse than drawing or arranging letters into lines. As for my enemies, I'm not the one who puts weapons in their hands. Like me, they've chosen their own path.
I'm really pleased these camp dialogues are voiced, actually, because they provide some of the best sort of, you know, little vignettes into the personalities of our characters, and it's always like a sort of call and response. You know, Lindsay and Amiri, Valerie and Lindsay. So we'll hopefully see quite a lot of these. And we've been successful. We've hunted 5 rations. So even though we used our rations, we've actually replaced all of them, which is great. And we've been successful at our camp camouflage. Should be no ambush there. And so I'm going to pause the video now and restart in episode 5, I believe it is. See you then.